Well, good evening and welcome to the Salem Area Mass Transit District Board of Directors meeting for August 28th, 2014. Tonight we'll have two presentations. The first one is from United Way Campaign Leader Award presentation. And the second will be a presentation by our own Kiki Doman on the impact of millennials and XY generations on transportation demand management. That's a mouthful. We'll have public comment. People wishing to speak on something will have 3 minute time limit. We will then approve the consent calendar, which contains minutes from 4 meetings and 1 routine banking item. We have 2 action items tonight. We're going to accept the Equal Opportunity Plan and also implement Flexible Transportation Option Pilot Project. We have no information items tonight, and we will conclude with the meeting with various reports. So we'll now open the meeting, and Linda, please take note of the attendance. And our Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be by John Hamill, Subdistrict 3. Subdistrict 4, but who's counting? 5, 6. Here's the flag. Please join me as I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, John. Any announcements or changes to the agenda? Okay. We'll have presentations now. First one is United Way.
Great, thank you, Mr. President. Gives me great pleasure tonight to introduce Randy Franke, the Executive Director of the United Way of Mid-Willamette Valley, who is here to make a presentation to the board and talk about our partnership. So, Randy.
Thank you, Alan. President Thompson, board members, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to come and actually not only thank the board of directors, but thank your outstanding staff, employees of the Salem Transit District, Salem Keizer Transit District. Get myself in trouble quick this morning. First, I want to say a few words. We really want to thank the employees of the Salem Keizer Transit District for supporting the community through their support of the United Way campaign. This is my second year of running a campaign as the executive director for United Way, and I think it's been at least 2 years you have been one of our top 25 campaigns, and I think you're off to a great start in this campaign as well. And I guess the one thing I want to point out, I was chatting with President Thompson earlier, and I think the part of the success of your campaign is, first of all, the support the campaign gets from the board and from the general manager of the district. You allow your employees to have fun while they're supporting and helping the community. And I wish all of the employers in the community understood that. The employees are helping give back to the community. They're having fun. They're building teamwork and esprit de corps, and doing good while they're doing that. And we really appreciate that. And as we look at our campaign performance over the years, that's what highlights our top campaigns. When the leadership recognizes the importance of the employees' participation and allows them to have fun while they're doing that. So, want to do a couple of things before I present the actual award. We've got 2 photos taken last year at the celebration that I wanted to present. Not sure exactly who I should give them to. I'll come up here. There's several familiar faces here. I'll go down now. Okay. I recognize several, at least I did, several people in the audience who had their pictures here. So here's the 2 photos of last year's team.
Oh, yeah.
Recognize that guy there.
I recognize him. How'd he get in there?
I don't know. The staff felt sorry for him.
He won the football contest, too.
There you go.
No, I guess not last year.
So on behalf of the United Way and all of the individuals that we help throughout the community throughout the year, we'll present this 2013 Campaign Award for the top 25 employee campaign to the Salem Keizer Transit District. And I might just read the quote that we put on the award this year, if I might, from a lady by the name of Ellen Browning Scripps. And I don't know if anybody might be familiar with her. We put a bio of her on the back. If you've ever heard of the Scripps Institute, this is who we're talking about. Started out as a $50 a month teacher and ended up founding the Scripps Institute and a couple of other pretty formidable organizations. So this is her quote. "The most important and beautiful gift one human being can give to another is in some way to make a life a little better to live." Ellen Browning Scripps, teacher, journalist, philanthropist, 1836 to 1932. Thank you very much on behalf of everyone in the community. Thank you.
Could you guys turn this way real quick?
Alan, thank you. Board members, thank you. And staff, thank you.
Yes, thanks, Randy. I'd just like to say one thing, and that's we also want to thank you for the part that you play in distributing the passes that we give to the United Way on an annual basis to share among those agencies that are serving people who need transportation to get maybe to a job interview or get to a food bank. And we really do thank you for taking that administrative role because you deal with them on a daily basis. So thank you for that.
Marcia, Director Kelly, thank you so much for reminding me of that. I actually came with that up here, but it went someplace else once I got up in front of the mic. You'd think I'd be used to being in front of the mic. On one side, it makes a difference. You're a little more nervous than on the other side. I do want to comment on that. That's been a very successful partnership. We deeply appreciate it. And I think, as you know, we saw the need so much that I put $5,000 in our budget last year so we could purchase additional passes to add to those that you've donated to us to distribute. And your leadership, we have contacted the transit system up in Yamhill County and have made a similar proposal to them. And we've got the Early Learning Hub up there in Yamhill County on board. They committed to match our dollars and are joining us in requesting that their transit system also match that, and we develop a similar program up there. So not only has it been successful here, but it's become a pilot for us for other areas, because as you well know, one of the biggest problems with the folks we're trying to help is transportation. And we deeply do appreciate that partnership. Thank you.
And Randy, we appreciate the partnership.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Randy.
You bet.
Our next presentation is, I'll let you introduce it.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Kiki Dolman, our rideshare specialist. She'll be making a presentation to you this evening that she presented a few weeks ago at the Association of Commuter Transportation Annual Conference. And I want to take away the rest of her introduction, so I'll just ask Kiki to please come on up.
All right. Thank you. Let me get this up real quick. All right. President Thompson and members of the board, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity tonight to just go over just some of the research and work that was done while I was at the, while I was in the ACT Leadership Academy. ACT stands for Association for Commuter Transportation, and they have a leadership academy that is targeted towards young and new professionals within the transportation industry. So some requirements in order to complete the academy, we had to meet 3 times throughout this last year in different cities, and there were sessions filled with information about transportation policy and transportation planning, but then also, of course, qualities of great leadership or a great leader, but then and how to be an effective manager and how important it is to engage the human capital, and to build relationships with those that we work with. Another requirement was also creating a group presentation. I was in a group of 3, and one colleague was from Arlington, Virginia, DC area, and the other colleague was from Everett, Washington. So we had a kind of a diverse little group, and we brought all different perspectives and experience into our research about the millennials. And the reason why we chose this subject was because we were interested in how this generation is impacting our transportation industry, and then how do we communicate effectively with this generation. So this presentation will cover who the millennials are and all the kind of basic facts about this generation, but then also what do we do with this information? How do we apply it to our work? And how can we build partnerships within this, within our industry with local markets, and commute effectively with this generation? So the clicker doesn't work with the Prezi format, so I have to click manually. Hope that's okay. There we go. All right. So first off, being a part of the rideshare team at Chariots, we come across a variety of audiences, and just kind of wanted to point out that with each audience, they require different tactics and strategy of communication to them, and whether it's those that live in an urban or rural or suburban community, we adjust our marketing message accordingly. Also with mode, many commuters like to identify with the mode of their mode choice. So for example, if we're talking to the Salem Bike Club, we will of course target our messaging towards bike safety or biking routes or rules of the road, but of course we want to bridge those modes, and we'll bring information about transit and how transit can complement their commute by bike. Also, we of course come across all different people, whether it's by different culture, by gender, or also by age. And again, of course, we're focusing on the generation side of our audience tonight, particularly with the millennials. So what is up with this generation? What's going on? Why is it such a buzzword? It seems that there's a lot of media coverage with this generation, and they are constantly kind of being assessed. And as you can see, all the little blue words, those are just some of the little titles that are linked with this generation. And I thought it was interesting. In the lower right-hand corner is the Time magazine, and it's titled the Me Generation, which implies that it's a very entitled young adults. But also, I thought it was interesting, while researching, the Rockefeller Foundation did a survey and did some research, and that the millennial generation is actually more on the entrepreneur side of the spectrum, and that they're more independent, and that they have they want to work for a cause and to build our society and to work for people. They're definitely more people-oriented and like to collaborate. So working solely may work for some, but ultimately they like to collaborate and work in groups and work for a cause. All right. So some hard facts about this about this generation is that the ages are 18 to 34. So millennials are born between 1980 and 1996. There's currently over 80 million millennials within the US. This is over 25% of the population. And I put some brackets within that graphic so you can kind of see the segment of the millennials that I was talking about between the female and male side. So it's a pretty big population. Millennials are, for the most part, very well educated. Most millennials finish high school and they move on to college, if not some college. But we all know with education, it's amazing and it's a privilege, but then it's also sometimes there comes debt with education. And so when millennials are finished with their college venture, they're typically going to one or two places, whether that's back with the rents, which is what this infographic is proclaiming as parents, but then also versus rent, and they're sharing the rent with roommates. So coming out of college, having debt, wanting to save some money, it's a very pragmatic generation that they're going to adjust their lifestyle in order to pay off debt or to fulfill their needs. But then also there's a scarcity of jobs. So there's more young adults living with their parents than ever before. So until they kind of get on track and are able to find a career path that they're able to live on, then most young adults are okay with living with their parents. It's not very frequent that they're going to be independent living. Millennials prefer to have instant communication. It's very convenient. If it's just a short text or answer, texting or social media is a great way to get a hold of a millennial. Social media and blogging is a great way that millennials like to express themselves. All avenues of social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, I think is becoming up and coming as well. So there's all these different ways of technology is complementing their way of communication. So flexibility and convenience. Millennials value flexibility and convenience with work, with leisure activities, whether it's shopping or grocery shopping, communication, and then that also includes transportation, flexibility and convenience options for transportation. And then a multimodal system complements the flexibility and convenience. The Forbes did an article on millennials, and that more millennials would rather, they would rather ditch their car and be able to use public transit and able to be multitasking while on their commute than to actually own a car, because owning a car can cause, it's expensive, there's upkeep, there's stress with driving, so they would rather utilize the convenient transportation options available to them so they can utilize and save money and utilize what's available to them. Zipcar did a survey saying that most millennials, again, will ditch their car for their cell phone. And so technology is very, very favorable to the millennial. 65% of millennials will ditch their car for a cell phone. This is huge that technology is everything. We're literally at our fingertips 24/7. Most millennials will even have their cell phone by their beds or their pillow while they sleep. And so technology is literally at their fingertips all the time. And that whether that's with real-time apps, shopping online, a common phrase is Google it. If you don't know anything, Google it. And it's right there, instant answers and instant gratification. So now that we're all experts on millennials, what are we going to do with this information, and how can we apply it to our work? Well, as transportation professionals, we can use this information and apply it to building and nurturing partnerships with local markets. These local markets, universities, residential communities, and employers, they have the same target audience as us. They are wanting to attract the millennials as well. But now that we know that the millennials are wanting like more convenient options and transportation, and we can partner up with these local markets, and they can use transportation amenities into their work plan and benefit them. They can become more competitive within their own markets as well and attract the millennials. So with universities, for example, it's very fortunate that we have a great relationship with the universities here, whether that's Willamette University, Western Oregon University as well, but then also Chemeketa Community College. Roxanne and myself love to go to campus and meet with the transportation managers and the sustainability managers and kind of hash out what exactly are they offering their students and also employees, what transportation options are available to them. Is transit easily accessible? Does it come right on campus? Do they have bike share? Do they have bike racks enough for their students so they can move around campus enough? If they're not sure and they don't even know what their students want, we'll actually go to student events and figure out what do these students want and what would they actually utilize. If a university would supply a transit pass within their package for students, would they actually utilize it? Would they ride their bike more if there was more bike racks? So with all this being said, the conversations need to be started, and new student orientations is a great way to engage students and also their parents. Their parents love when we bring up there's no reason to, or the option of no car, because if they can utilize what's around them, then they might not need to bring their car, and the expenses of doing a parking permit and upkeep for a car while studying. So universities are a great way that we can reach the millennial market and start the conversation of how we can better serve them. With residential communities, there's a trend of millennials flocking to the urban setting. So millennials and these young adults are wanting that city lifestyle. Everything's really easy to kind of go to. They can get a bite to eat whenever they want. They can walk and maybe even walk to a movie. So my husband and I were looking for a place to live. You might recognize this building. It's called the Meridian. It's off of Commercial Street. And we were looking for a place to live. This was at the top of our list because of what it offered. The location was amazing. It was very convenient, great sidewalks, easy to walk downtown to. Then it also had a great transit stop right in front of the building. So I was able to go and hop on the bus number one, and go to Fred Meyer's, go to Trader Joe's, go to take my grocery shopping, and come back all within an hour, and it was great. And also, this location was perfect for when our CHQ offices was over on Commercial, so I walked to work every day. So that was very convenient. But then also, the Meridian also offered great bike storage and bike lockers. So again, it served us well in that aspect. So going into this building, we had 2 cars. We realized from what was offered, we didn't need 2 cars anymore. So we ended up selling 1 car, and we were able to save money that way. And as newlyweds, that was great because we're poor. And so that was great. So that fit our needs, and that was another bonus that came to us. Then also, but outreach to residential communities just doesn't mean buildings. It also means neighborhood associations. Since a few months ago, my husband and I actually moved to West Salem, and a big selling point to the neighborhood, West Salem, no. Another big selling point for the house that we chose to live in was because there was a transit stop right around the corner. And so I'm able to, if my husband and I don't carpool together, I'm able to use transit. And it's been great. Or I'm able to carpool with my lovely boss, Roxanne Rolls. So, but it's great. But those transportation options are available to me. And so we still only have 1 car. And it's, again, fitting our needs appropriately. And so that's been great. So with employers, moving on to employers, this is probably the biggest local market that we work with. We have ETCs, which are employee transportation coordinators, and they're basically at each work site and each organization that we work with. So these employee transportation coordinators are a great in for our just for our message, and they're our point of contact. But they also set up different work site visits that we can have. And then while going into these work site visits, we do research on what they already provide for their employers, but then also come to the work site with this mindset that, and this little fact that by 2020, 50% of the workforce will be millennials. So this is This is huge for an employer to realize and to know, because this is on the horizon. It's coming. So what can we do to prepare to invite these millennials coming and staying and working effectively and efficiently? Millennial Branding and Beyond actually states that 60% of millennials will leave their job within 3 years. For an employer, that will cost $15,000 to $20,000 to replace them. So again, knowing and starting the conversation of what employees are wanting transportation-wise and benefit-wise, then we can possibly boost up employee loyalty and employee satisfaction. And if employers don't know what their employees want, then we'll also, kind of similar with the university setting, we'll go to the work sites and the break rooms, and we'll start the conversations. What exactly do your employees want? We, of course, educate what's already available to them, which is Drive Less Connect. And Drive Less Connect is our ride matching database that we use. And we're able to educate them on how they can find a van pool that could be available, also carpool partners and bike buddies, and also educate them on their emergency ride home option as well. But then in possible bike routes. But then also one thing to keep in mind is the organizational structure of the employer that we're going to, meaning is the services that this organization serving, is it skilled trade, or is it more of an office setting? So skilled trade, we actually have a van pool full of electricians and like plumbers, and they are commuting to Eugene. And with the electrician van pool, this is temporary because this project is about 6 months, and they know that this is going to be a temporary job, and then probably the next one will be back up in Portland. But we can set up these great van pools for them, and that works for that type of organization. But with more of an office setting, we can also provide an option with telework, and which is this next infographic, and alternative work schedules. And this is becoming very popular with the millennial generation as well. They are preferring flex work schedules, and then options to work from home. I apologize, it's a little pixelated up there, but with the top bar says 37% of millennials would take a pay cut if it meant flexibility in work location and hours. This is huge, and it reiterates that millennials value time. And they value time, and they want that work-life balance. They want the flexibility to work from home, and they can work effectively they can work efficiently and get the job done. And I thought this infographic was just kind of a fun sample, just because it says white collar versus no collar, kind of implying that sometimes the work is really no longer about the setting, it's about getting the job done wherever you're at. And again, millennials are very, they embrace multitasking. They're multitasking all the time, no matter what, on their phones. I check my email all 24/7 with work. So I mean, I'm constantly engaged, and I like it. I like knowing what's going on. So again, offering these types of commuter benefits could be beneficial for the employer as well. It's a little cute comic. I don't know if everyone can read it, but it says early experiments in transportation. But so I think it's important to recognize how far we have come in it as an industry in transportation, through the early experiments of the wheel to all the innovations into now that have been successful. So, and it's not stopping. The road of innovation is not stopping with the millennials. It needs to keep going. And as transportation professionals, we need to realize that we need to keep up. We need to keep up with the millennials and what they're wanting, and then also for the next generation as well. But that does not mean that we need to abandon what works now or what we have done and what's been successful, because those strategies are effective for different audiences for a reason. So stick with what is working, but then also let's add to our toolbox of outreach and programs and services and be innovative so we can reach other audiences as well. So, and just to reiterate, the new normal, these ideas and these values aren't going anywhere. I believe that the influence of millennials has kickstarted these kind of multimodal lifestyle, but other generations have adopted it as well because it's flexible, convenient, and we all like technology now. But then also, again, with evolving, the next generation is going to want the same things as well, if not more, because this is all they know. As millennials, we were able to see the progression of technology and cell phones and social media. We saw the progression of that. My first cell phone I didn't get until I was 17 because and it was only for sporting events when I was checking in with my parents. And I don't even think I had a social media page until I was in college, and it was MySpace. So there's a progression of all of these technologies. But then with Gen Z, which is also referred to as the new silent generation, which is more kind of descriptive of the generation, which is going to link it towards the original silent generation, just because I guess they're suggesting that they're going to be more frugal, they're going to be more resourceful, and just with how they're placed with a low economic setting. But then, but again, just starting those conversations and trying to moving forward and forward thinking, and just so we can be innovative and connecting people with places. And that's all we're about, and serving our community, but then also taking up opportunities to build partnerships, whether it's with the local markets I said earlier, or if it's city planners or urban planners, just so we can all be on the same page, bridge silos, and we can better serve our community. So thank you so much for your time. I'd love to take any questions if there are any. I also have, I printed out more information about Generation Z if anyone's interested. I also have other resources that's like 30 pages long, so I didn't really think I should print it out, but I can always send it through Google Docs as well about the generational workforce differences. It's really interesting. It's by AARP, and so it's really interesting. But it's really interesting. There's so much information out there of what we can be implementing into our programs and services. So I'm excited. It's an exciting time.
I think I'd like to see that material, so maybe everybody would. Questions?
Oh, I just wanted to say thanks for the presentation. When I heard that you were giving it, I remember saying, "Oh, can she come give it to us?" Because it's fascinating. I'm on the upper end of the gen of the millennials, and as I have conversations at work with those even just a few years older, there are some of these distinct differences. Mm-hmm. And so being able to associate with that and recognize that is very helpful. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm before a baby boomer, so I'm pretty old. There's a lot of generations that. Anybody have Marcia?
Kiki, thanks very much. It was really an interesting and fun presentation, and I know that there are some statistics about fewer driver's licenses or later driver's licenses in this each group too. And I forwarded you something. I'm on a lot of email lists, and I forwarded you something on a seminar on why job schedules matter, which might be interesting for you to do.
Oh,
So.
excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I look forward to reading it.
It's a seminar, sort of like a call-in webinar thing.
Perfect.
I
Those are
think
my
John's
favorite.
next.
Okay. I just want to jump on the bandwagon. Great information, very relevant not just to transportation demand management, but to the way our society is working and the way it's headed. Great information.
Bob?
Well, I want to congratulate you on completing the ACT course.
Thank you.
I think it's great that the younger, being the older generation, it's great to see the younger generation is going to keep the country running, and it looks like the quality of life is going to improve with this younger generation taking control.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you, Kiki.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time for public public comment. Sorry about my voice. And we have one person signed up. That's Mr. Constantino. And we have your address, so you don't need to give your address.
Yes, Gary Cosentino, 774 Scenic Heights Drive, Salem, Oregon. Here to address the board tonight. I've talked to several of the board. We've sent a letter to the board. My daughter sent a letter to the board. Your proposed changes to Route 21, I guess, are not on the agenda. And the fact is, it's either going to continue or majority of it's going to be eliminated. If it's eliminated, you're not doing your job and focusing on the low-income, disabled, seniors, which there's quite a few seniors in my daughter's area. She lives on Reese Hill in Huntington Court. We moved her in there 10 years ago because of the proximity to a bus station. We pay mass transit taxes for the condo that she lives in, and we had a reasonable expectation that transportation would continue. If that doesn't continue, she may have the ability to ride cherry lift, but seniors may not. So you're eliminating, for a low ridership area, you're eliminating that bus route, and those people now have no other means. My daughter may have means, and to be honest with you, cherry lift did not fulfill her needs because they were not reliable, they forgot her, and a lot of instances where it wasn't safe for her when she was there. So we ask for your consideration to keep that route viable. Even if you were to change the route to, instead of a half hour, once an hour, morning and evening, where people knew the route, they could rely on that, they could come and still get into town and take care of their needs. Thank you for your consideration.
You want to have Jared do that?
Okay. Just for the audience out there and for the board, so thank you, Mr. Cosentino, for being here. As the board is aware, we're in an information gathering phase as part of the Moving Forward project. We had received the Comprehensive Service Analysis report from Jarrett Walker and Associates, and the board directed us to do some public outreach on that plan, is what we are doing now. At the completion of that public outreach process, we will take all the information through all the open houses and emails and letters and look at that as compared to the Jarrett Walker proposal and come up with a revised proposal, if you will, which will probably in October we'll bring back a summary of what we found in the public comment process. And then we will, staff will get to work on looking at any and all changes that we think should be brought to the board. And then in January, February, we'll be bringing a draft proposal for your review and hold the formal public comment process and public hearing process for that. With ultimately in probably March, the board will make take action on a new plan with a June implementation. But right now, we're still gathering information like the Cosentinos have provided. We'll take all that and then lock the planners up in a room and look at what changes we should make. So that's where we are now.
Kate?
I want to thank you for coming down here tonight. I know how hard it is, and every time we go through a redesign, it's very difficult sometimes to see who's going to win and who's going to truly lose in the decisions that are made. So hopefully you will continue to follow the progress as it moves forward towards October, and I'm hopeful in things such as our flexible transit pilot program, but I would like to hear a little more afterwards, if you have time, about what was going on with Cherry Lift, because I'm on another committee also, which is a police advisory committee. They have a process if there's complaints and things get addressed. We have a process also, and I will say that the good thing about coming to this board, Linda follows up if there truly are complaints and issues that were happening on our service, Cherry Lift, and I think that staff takes those complaints very seriously and follows through. So the issues with the dog and the unsafe behavior that was talked about, I'd like to see at least that followed through so that we know that our staff is trained and something like that isn't continuing anymore.
John?
There it is. Yes, thanks for coming and thanks for making your comment. My interest is similar to Katie's in board member Tartar's, in that if there are problems with Cherry Lift, I'd like to hear more about that. Other things are going on with the Transit District at this time that are relevant to your situation. For instance, we are having a review of our fare structure, including Cherry Lift fares. And one of the things that you might consider would be suggesting that that there be monthly passes for Cherry Lifts at a reduced rate, or some kind of volume discount for Cherry Lift users. I think that board might be interested in supporting that kind of activity or that kind of suggestion. As mentioned earlier, we are looking at some non-traditional solutions for low-use areas, and South Salem was one of the areas that we are considering. So there are some things in the future that may well be able to resolve your situation, even if Route 21 ultimately does not survive in its current fashion.
Okay, anyone else? Yeah, Brad?
Yeah, I just want to say also thanks for coming out. The planning process sometimes does take a long time. And up front, it's really good that you are becoming informed, providing us your perspective and your opinion and your experience, because that definitely helps. And so even though these changes aren't going to happen for a year or so, it is a good time to be sharing that. So just wanted to thank you for that. And as you're learning more and more, I think there are some really exciting features about the proposal. It would be great to be able to serve where you were living. One of the things that I'm really excited about with the proposal is the increase of frequency on some of the key corridors, which, if there is opportunity to locate closer to those, this plan intends to put a lot of emphasis on making those permanent, so that this situation is minimized in the future. As service changes happen, those that have located close to these corridors aren't going to experience exactly what you're coming and expressing, because we don't want that. We want to minimize that. So I don't know if that's an opportunity or an option in the future, is to consider locating closer to some of these corridors, which we think would serve all of our citizens in the future to have high frequency transit, that they can have that trust in, that will be there for them.
You're asking people.
Go ahead.
You're asking people like myself. You're asking people like myself that are disabled, and I've spoken to numerous people that have disabilities, that have service dogs. You're asking those people to up and move to different locations that are safe for themselves, that are safe for their dogs, and or themselves because of their chairs. You're asking themselves to move from a safe location to a potentially unsafe location that they don't know, because transit has up and changed. In my mind, that's not a fair trade-off.
Thank you for your comments. Like we're saying, this isn't going to take place for quite some time yet. Oh, Marcia, go ahead.
I was going to say before your comments, and thank you for your comments, I believe I responded to your letter by email, that we're having public hearings to hear comments from the public so that we can evaluate what's going on, and we want the public context. So the more that you can talk to people and the more that people pay attention to what's going on before changes are made, we can potentially alleviate some of those changes where we discover that there really are needs that need to be served. And I think that Brad was saying in the future that we would hope that when we have really permanent corridor routes, that people can really plan on those. I don't think he was intending to say that you need to move in order to do that. We're hoping that people, when they select a place to live, will have the ability to know that transit is going to stay on those particular routes.
Yeah, that was my intent. I wasn't meaning to say that I was encouraging you to move, but was trying to minimize these very real concerns that we are very mindful of, because it is so.
And Steve?
So sorry for creating any hard feelings you might have.
Steve, do you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you for coming tonight. I apologize for being late. It was 2 hours from North Portland. So I was the board member that voted against this, and I did it not because I was losing my ride, but because it did not fully address. We have something on the books that could help, but it wasn't guaranteed. So I could not support what you're upset about either, because I felt like, well, I've ridden all of the routes that are going to be affected by this. I did that, and I talked to people on those buses. That's what I did this last month. And I understand that many of those folks are going to work on those buses. And I tried to go early in the morning so that I would get an idea of what that meant. So I personally would not support anything that didn't have an alternative, even if it was something like the new Cherry Lift van that is very small. It's a car, almost. I don't know if you've seen it yet. Okay. There has to be an alternative that supports the web that we've established out there. It can't be with the budget that we have right now, possibly. But I think we can be creative. Hopefully we can be creative with how we serve your needs and still increase frequency. And that's up to the administration to be creative. That's not our job, but we can give them direction, hopefully. And thank you for coming tonight, and I'm very supportive of your and understanding your needs. My sister-in-law's pretty much in the same situation you are. So, thank you.
May I make one more comment, please?
You got them.
So we've taken more of your time than you normally allow. Thank you. Because we are such a close family and we're so supportive of our daughter, as soon as we learned about this, well, she learned about it. She got on the internet and saw those proposed changes moving forward. Well, that didn't tell her a whole lot. So she got more in depth and come to find out it's either going to be there or it's going to be her major portion of that Route 21 is going to be eliminated. Well, so we got involved and wrote letters to you all, and some of you responded, and thank you very much. Some of you come up to talk to us tonight since we walked in. That's greatly appreciated. But additionally, we put out flyers on the bus route, and we stopped as we were putting these flyers out on 2 different occasions, the entire route, and talked to everybody that was there, handed them a flyer and said, you know about the changes in the bus route? And they said, no, we don't know anything about it. And I said, well, it's not just a change, it's an elimination. And they go, didn't know anything about it. Your sandwich boards that you have on the sidewalk just say proposed changes. They don't say it's an elimination. And I see none of those people here tonight that are being affected. So I hope you give it the kind of consideration this gentleman has talked about. Thank you.
And we will be continuing this outreach for quite some time. So as like Ellen said, we'll be doing this for a couple months yet, and then some. So, okay, you were the only one signed up on the public comment. Was there anyone else in the audience that wished to present something to the board? Seeing none, I guess we'll move on to our consent calendar. Motion?
I move we adopt the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Approve, same sign. Okay, our next item would be our action item. First one is to accept the Equal Employment Opportunity Affirmative Action Plan. Can't even talk.
Great, thank you. Paula Dixon, our Director of Administration, will present the staff report.
Good evening, President Thompson and members of the board. The district is required to adopt a 3-year Equal Employment Opportunity Affirmative Action Plan. The purpose of the plan is to guide our employment practices to help us achieve and maintain a diverse workforce that reflects our community. The plan includes information about the district, our employment practices, our EEO-AA goals, and the methods we will use to reach those goals. The goals on our plan for the next 3 years include increasing recruitment of minority candidates and lower-level officials and managers, professionals, and craft worker job categories, and also female candidates and the craft worker and operatives categories after analysis showed that we had underrepresentation in those categories. The board was briefed on this plan at the August 11th work session. The action before you tonight is to accept the plan.
Okay, questions? Motion?
I'll do it.
Okay, better put your microphone down
Can't find
then. There it is.
Okay. I move that the board accept the 2014 to 2017 Equal Employment Opportunity Affirmative Action Plan.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. In how many pages is that? About 150 pages or
I think it's
something
like
like that?
73.
It's pretty big. And we've gone through that, and we did it in a work session also, so. Anyway, is there a further discussion? Marcia?
Just thanks, Paula, for updating some of the language in it. I appreciate it.
And I'm glad to see that the district and the board is so conscientious about following its obligations under this plan. Nice work.
Okay, others? Okay, I'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you, Paula. Our next item is Flexible Transportation Option Pilot Project.
Ted Stonecliff, our long-range planning analyst, will present the staff report.
Good evening, President Thompson and members of the board. Tonight I'll be presenting our proposal for flexible transit. And the issue is, shall this be in West Salem or another area? We're making the case tonight for West Salem. This proposal is based on research done by a partnership between the district and Portland State University graduate students. It was a 6-month project called Capturing the Ride, and the students were calling themselves Paradigm Planning. You might see that in the documentation. It was a great project lasting from January to June of this year, and they were studying flexible or alternative transit options for low-density neighborhoods that traditionally are not efficient to serve with fixed route transit. They studied 3 areas in the Salem-Keizer area: Keizer, West Salem, and South Salem. These are all good candidates for flexible transit because they're typified by low-density single-family housing. They have disconnected street networks, high car ownership rates, high median income rates, and traditionally difficult to serve with fixed route bus service in this network. The board accepted the final report, which I have here in my hand. It's also available in the board packet of the June 26, 2014 meeting. And at that meeting, the general manager was directed to bring a recommendation for a pilot project to tonight's meeting. So why have a pilot project? Even though flexible transit is used by many transit agencies in the U.S., We need to test it for ourselves before committing to this type of service in the long term. There's some systems and technologies that would be new to the district, such as dynamic scheduling with new routing for the operator of the vehicle on potentially every trip, and this idea of activated stops that we've learned about. A pilot project allows the district to evaluate the cost, efficiency, and public acceptance of this new type of service compared to the existing. And the Moving Forward project does not recommend fixed route service for the hills of West Salem and other areas, as we know. So why did the Moving Project not recommend continuing service for the West Salem Hills? It has a lot to do with the cost per boarding. A ride check performed by Jarrett Walker and Associates as part of the comprehensive system analysis in November 2013 found that the cost per boarding on bus routes serving these 3 study areas are the highest in the Chariot system. In particular, routes 12, 14, 18, 21, 22, and 23 all experience below 15 boardings per revenue hour per day and a fare box recovery ratio of 6.5% or less. The low end of reasonable fixed route transit productivity is around 10 boardings per hour, and our current average system-wide fare box recovery ratio is 13%. What are these reasons for lack of performance? Some may say it's the one-way loops that, such as the routes 22 and 23 in West Salem, 21 in South Salem, and routes 14 and 18 in Keizer are making. It also has to do with the low population density, disconnected street network, high car ownership rates, and high median income rates. Why do you think we should have flexible transit? Well, we think although not necessarily this is a less expensive alternative, since most of the cost of operating transit is with the operator, even if you have a smaller vehicle, we're not going to save a whole lot of money. This will provide more coverage than existing. For instance, in West Salem, it may be possible to serve as far south as Eola Drive and as far north as Dokes Ferry and Wallace Roads. This would be a definite improvement to individuals with mobility issues, such as seniors and the disabled community. It allows people to age in place and possibly eliminates some cherry lift trips. Another reason flexible transit is a good option to consider is that all riders benefit by having a better connection to frequent service serving the downtown transit center. And maybe even there would be a possibility, if it's in West Salem, to run that flexible service directly to the downtown transit center. Dial-a-ride was ruled out due to greater inconvenience to passengers. People having to call in for every single ride. It's more convenient for people to have that being able to go out to a route or a stop and wait at a given scheduled time. So let's get down to the location, why we're recommending West Salem as opposed to Keizer or South Salem. And it comes down to the demographics, topography, and the ridership. In your packet, in the memo, I provided some data from our study. Table 1 shows a bunch of statistics, but I just want to hone in on 5 of them. Population density in West Salem is the lowest, 3,300 approximately, compared to 5,100 in Keizer and 4,600 in South Salem. The median household income is the highest, meaning there probably is a less propensity to use transit or traditional fixed route transit in West Salem. Moving down in the table to commuters living and working within the area, and also the jobs outflow, those are also the lowest, suggesting that fixed route transit would probably be less successful in West Salem than the other two areas. And the current ridership, the average daily ridership for the routes serving each area, is also the lowest. Two other reasons for choosing West Salem over South Salem or Keizer. Keizer has the ridership and demographics to support fixed route as recommended in our Moving Forward project. And South Salem at the current time lacks a necessary transfer point until the South Salem Transit Center is built. Currently in West Salem, we have the Glen Creek Transit Center that could be used as a transfer point to frequent service. The pilot project would last for a maximum of 12 months, and at the end of the pilot project, we would evaluate the costs and benefits of the flexible transit alternative and recommend for continuation, modification, expansion, or abandonment of the idea. We would also consider other areas of chariot service for flexible transit, such as South Salem, South River Road, Keizer, or Northeast Salem. And an implementation plan for the flexible transit pilot project will be shared with the board at your December 11, 2014 board meeting. And that implementation plan would include a budget estimate, schedule, and such. So at this time, staff recommends that the board authorize the general manager to implement a flexible transit pilot project in West Salem and provide an implementation report at the December board meeting. And I'd be happy to take questions at this time.
Steve?
So is it my understanding that this pilot project would start before any changes would happen to other routes?
Yes.
Okay.
That was really
most
likely.
To me. And I can answer part of the issue with why people don't ride in West Salem, because it's not getting to the bus, it's getting back home up the hills. Because the topography in West Salem is downhill to the bus, and then in the evening you're dragging uphill.
Sure.
So if you could be, with the flexible, you could get into their neighborhood like the buses used to do. And I think the ridership would be much more, at least the people that talk to me, especially if you get as far as Eola, they have been probably every third neighborhood associations, somebody comes up to and says, how come there's no service? Well, we know why, but it could help, I think. And so I'm very supportive, of course, because we lose 2/3 of our coverage in the other proposal. So it'd be very nice to see if this could increase ridership and create flexibility for the district. Thank you.
Kate?
I just want to be clear about the logic of why West Salem. Like you said, it sounds like West Salem would be the least likely to succeed. So is it if it makes it there, it could make it anywhere type theory?
Yeah, that's our logic at this point, is that the demographics are really pointing to the area that would be the most successful for this type of transit. Did I get your question wrong?
No, because it sounded like it would be the least successful because you had the riders that would be the least likely to use transit due to cars, income, and population. It almost looks like Keizer would be more successful due to population, income, and less cars, if I'm understanding this chart.
Maybe I was unclear, but with the demographics in Keizer, they would be more apt to use transit, and therefore fixed route is more appropriate in that area. With West Salem, with the high incomes, the high car ownership, and the low population densities, those are typical of areas that are not good for fixed route transit and need some kind of alternative.
Well, I guess I'm questioning transit as a whole, because if you're going to use your car and as an option, and you're not going to be using any sort of transit, that's where I'm saying I'd kind of question the likelihood that West Salem would have the highest ridership. But I wondered, that's why I was wondering if your logic was if we pick the place out of the three with where we think we're going to get the least amount of people that are going to get out of their cars and use transit, and we still have a great success, was that the logic of picking West Salem?
Well, I think as Director Evans alluded to, there are a lot of people who may want to use transit, such as seniors and the disabled, who can't get there. They need closer access to transit in order to utilize the service. And that's the beauty of flexible transit, is that we get to get into the neighborhoods and provide that coverage, where fixed route, you just can't do that.
And I get that. I think this is great. This is wonderful. And if it works out well, it's something I think we should have had a long time ago, because of the fact that it's going to offset the cost of chair lift and hopefully bring up the ridership as a whole. I'm just pointing out that if I'm understanding these numbers, and if today we had the money to do 3 pilot programs, I'd be interested to see if West Salem had the highest ridership or not.
You have a good point. Yeah.
You might point out also that West Salem probably has the largest geographic area of any of unserved part of the city, by far, maybe 2 or 3 times,
Oh, I don't think so.
at least twice.
I don't think so. You haven't taken a look at
It's
South
big.
Salem, dear.
Marcia, go ahead.
This is not going into effect immediately. You have some opportunities to fine tune. The question that I have on your population estimates, did you check to see what the senior populations, what the breakdown of age was in these areas, so that we know that we might be able to access some seniors in the West Salem area, or was it just a flat population?
Yes, in the report, they do have maps showing the concentrations of seniors, disabled.
So you did use those?
We did use those.
Okay, because I
as
didn't
well.
see a breakdown on population on what we...
I could certainly point you to those. Yes, they were not in the memo, but in general, yes, West
Okay.
Salem has those densities that are good for this.
So Bob, are you next?
Yes, I represent Southeast Salem, but I think West Salem is probably a good place to try this, because living in an area where there's lots of hills, the hills are a detriment to getting to transit if you have to walk up those hills to get home after you get off the bus. And I think moving the bus into the neighborhoods so people could access it easy. Now, what I would hope is when this is set up, that people could access the system with maybe an hour's notice or so. It wouldn't be like 3 hours or more, because it should be very close to scheduled route transit as far as time involved. I mean, if I want to go downtown, I know I'm going to go downtown, call somebody and get my stop established. But I would hope it would not become like Cherry Lift, where you have to call in a day in advance. You'd be able to make decisions an hour or 2 before you decide to make the trip. And I just think it's a good idea. I assume it's a smaller vehicle. It would be wheelchair accessible, so ADA compliant, and I could see benefits to us, because there are several Cherry Lift locations in West Salem. One that I remember when we did the survey of Cherry Lift areas that are outside of our regular route service, and it would seem to me that some of these people would be served by this service, which would reduce our Cherry Lift costs.
It's possible, especially if it's down at Eola Drive.
Yes.
Yes. And yes, to respond to your scheduling question, I believe the technology is there to have reservations as much as or as little as an hour in advance. We have to look into the details on that.
Well, I would also assume, if the 10 stops are taken, you can't get on. I mean, you have to go to one of those 10 stops then.
Right.
There'll be
You would
a limited
activate a
number of
stop.
stops that this thing would make, and you'd have to be able to. It's sort of going to be like a connect the dots thing, and when all the reservations come in, then the computer will assign a route to this bus, I assume.
Yeah, that's in general the way it'll work. But yeah, the details of the technology will be something forthcoming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, John.
I concur with many of Bob's statements in that there are a lot of details not present in this proposal that we're really going to want to take a look at. I presume that we will be given those details in the December report. Is that the plan?
Yes.
Okay.
We should have all the budget, the schedule, the hopefully the technology proposal in that plan.
Okay, so what we are doing by, if we approve this proposal right now, is saying focus your resources on West Salem. That's where we think the most, we'd get the most information on the effectiveness of this flex transit would be. Because on the other hand, I rather agree with Director Tarter that West Salem looks like the place where it's the least likely to show good results, and that we would be, if we want it to have a good result, we might be better off choosing one of the other two locations.
Marcia.
Well, we would have some baselines of what ridership has been in West Salem with various proposals. And so we should be able to tell whether, this is flex works, and then at some point, if it works, then we could expand it maybe to some of the other areas like the South Salem Hills and Down River Road, where we know that we don't have flexibility, especially if we can work with sidewalks. Sidewalks are another reason why it's hard to get people on the bus in West Salem. Every time people approve housing developments without full sidewalks, it makes it harder because people don't like walking in the mud to get to the bus.
Right, and if they are disabled, they probably
They can't
won't.
get to it, yes.
Anyone on this side? Anybody else? Thanks, Ted. Oh, do we have an action? Yes, we do. This is an action.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have an action.
Who wants to say something about that?
Who wants to move the action?
Yes, who wants to make the proposal?
I'll make the
should,
motion.
Thank you.
I move that the board authorize the general manager to implement a flex transit pilot project in West Salem and provide an implementation report at the December board meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thanks. Now thank you, Ted. We have no information items tonight, and our first report is on our rideshare fourth quarterly report.
Yes, thank you. Roxanne Rolls, our Chariots, our rideshare administrator, will present the report.
I'm glad the technology worked. Good evening, President Thompson, members of the board. I'll be presenting to you the Chariots Rideshare fourth quarter report, as well as the 2013-2014 year-end summary. The database system that we use, Driveless Connect, I give you the results every quarter, how many new users we have, 139 total users, 2,906, the number of ride match searches that have been performed since we implemented the database, which is about 2 years and a couple months, and the number of requests for ride matching that have been sent. Our highlights. I want to talk about our community outreach and some of the things we've done this last year. And I think some of these you'll recognize because you've participated in them. You know, we participated in the Iris Festival and the parade. Fiesta Mexicana, which was a number of weeks ago, up in Woodburn. It's our first time at that event. It was a very big success. It was wonderful. We were able to include a lot of our Latino employees. They helped us quite a bit with our communication with the individuals at the fiesta. We participated in the Active Transportation Summit, which was up in Portland this year. Kiki Doman attended. And then, of course, Earth Day. We have a booth every year at Earth Day at the Oregon Gardens. These are not all the events that we participate in, but these are some highlights. Salem Sunday Streets, which was almost a year ago now. We'll be doing it again this year, September 7th, here right in downtown. They close a number of streets on a Sunday. We open up the streets to have families come and participate, ride their bicycles. There'll be food and music, and we'll sponsor a booth called the pedal-powered booth this year. And it's basically bicycles that are hooked up to generate power. And they run blenders and they run equipment, and so we'll be sponsoring that this year, as well as having a booth. And we bring out a bike rack. It's a full-size demo bike rack to show people how to drop the rack down off of a bus, put their bike on, secure it, put the rack back up. Because a lot of people say, well, I'd take my bike on the bus, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to put it on the front. So we'll have that there. My understanding is the Cherry City Derby Girls, which is the roller derby team here, will be doing a running of the bulls to open up the event at noon on Sunday, September 7th. So I encourage you to attend. It should be interesting. And I think many of you recognize our showbiz booth. I think there's some people here that you might know. We did photos. We had these wonderful frames you could hold up. We took pictures of individuals. We posted them on our Facebook page, encouraged people to go tag themselves. So this grows the number of people that are viewing our Facebook page that then get information about what we're doing. So we'll be taking the photo booth idea to Salem Sunday Streets this year as well. We run promotion ads. This was last year. It was the Natural Choice Directory. They are no longer going to be doing a print directory. It's all going to be online now, which makes sense, being that it's a sustainability publication. There's no sense in killing a bunch of trees to educate people about sustainability. And then the Oregon Drive Less Challenge. This was sponsored by the state of Oregon. They set a goal to eliminate 500,000 vehicle miles traveled statewide, had 12 days to do it. Everybody in the state of Oregon that does what I do, we promoted it, we got folks out there interested, got them signed up, and had people carpooling, vanpooling, bicycling, walking. And we're gonna do it again this year. So this year the goal is 1 million miles. And we almost actually hit 1 million miles last year. So we're gonna participate again in that Drive Less Challenge. That'll be in October. Oh goodness, I guess my font didn't come out right. In any case, this was about what I was just talking about, reducing vehicle miles traveled, increase registered users in the database, because as you know, in order to make quality matches, you need to have people in the database. So this certainly drove the number of people that were in the database. ODOT gave everybody across the state, everyone that does what I do, hundreds of blinky lights, and asked us to distribute them so that we could, in the winter months, so that we could give them to our riders, make sure people were more visible. And I've heard so many of our operators say how much they appreciate having these to pass out, because when it's dark and someone's at the bus stop, all they do is turn on the little blinky light and the operator can see them. Hopefully all of you saw the bus wraps we had last year, promoting Drive Less Connect. I don't think any of them are on the road anymore. I think they all got unwrapped, but I was thrilled to have, the wraps done on these buses, and they drove around town, and I would have people send me text messages, I'm behind your bus right now. And I'm like, don't text while you're driving. But I think we've talked a lot about the BTA bike commute challenge. We participated in that last year. We help with outreach, we help send information to our ETCs, we participate in clinics and classes. And this year, Salem Keizer Transit does have a team, and Ted Stonecliffe volunteered to manage the Chariots team, so he's getting folks to sign up for that for September. And it's a business-to-business challenge, see how many people you can get, new people riding bikes, how many miles you can get them to ride. And it's even multimodal. You get to count it if you ride your bike to the bus, put the bike on the bus. So. And then, of course, you know about the student poster contest we run every year. Incredibly successful this year. We had over 700 posters submitted from 22 schools, middle and high school students. Our theme was What Moves Me. Oh, it even says there 22 schools, 3 counties, 700 posters. We put the posters up all over. It engages with the students, which we love because we get to go to the schools and talk about what we do. And the kids take that information home and talk to their parents. And they say to their parents, why are you driving me to school every day? Can't I ride my bike with my neighbor? So that's the kind of message we want. And then, of course, it gives us art we can use all year long. We used one of the kids' artwork on the Summer Youth Pass. So what am I doing with the employers, or what have I done with the employers in the last year? I've been building these relationships with all of our area employers, meeting with as many of them one-on-one as I can. I develop marketing literature, so it's concise. It tells them, these are the things I can do with you. These are free services we offer. What are your goals? I'll help you get information. We'll customize a commute program for an employer. We've done this with Spirit Mountain because they have a challenge with employee retention. So we help them build programs. Now they have preferential carpool parking right up front, and employees that get into carpools and sign up get to park right at the front of the casino, where it's much more convenient for them, especially when it's dark and it's rainy. And this is nothing new, but these are the things that we talk about. Can we get preferential treatment? Can we help them build tax-free? Can we get them tax-free transit passes by having payroll deduction? And then they order their passes in bulk. Parking cash-out programs. Can they have their employees telework? As Kiki mentioned earlier, 36% of the millennials say they would take a pay cut if they had flexible hours. That's good information. And then, of course, setting up employee shuttles. And I think I've seen most of you at some of these health and benefit fairs that we attend. We go to them all over any of the 3 counties we serve. We work with the city of Salem, Willamette University, Salem Health, out at the casino, and then of course ODOT supports a lot of our events as well. I think again you're familiar with emergency ride home, but we remind people, if you want to convince your folks to get into a carpool, you need to make sure they have a way home if there's an emergency. This is a free service we offer. Their employees can register, they can print their own voucher, they can get themselves a taxi ride home, and we pay for that. We've discussed the employer bus pass program. We still have several employers that are using the existing program we have, but we're going to be reviewing it this year, the next couple months, to figure out a way to increase the number of employers that are using this transit pass program. It's a great program. One low monthly rate for all of the employees, and every employee then would have access to a monthly bus pass. And we have our employee transportation coordinators, which those are sort of our evangelists with the employers. We work with them, help them understand what their role and responsibilities are, give them literature, give them promotional items, and then feed them lunch once a quarter, where we get them all together in this very room and talk about what's happening with Chariots. We answer any questions they have. We usually have state employees that talk about some of the state situation with parking and their concerns. And something that we've been working on, but we're going to continue to work on this, we hired Alt Planning, which is a consultant up in Portland, a transportation planning consultant. They've been reviewing the existing program that the rideshare program has. As you know, we're 40 years old, the rideshare program in this area. And we've been doing things the same way for probably a couple years too long. So we hired them. They've been interviewing stakeholders. In fact, I think they might have interviewed some of you. We gave them about 20 other people to interview, employers, commuters, ETCs, and so they've completed all of those interviews now. We've looked for gaps in the infrastructure. We've looked for gaps in the services that the rideshare program provides. What could we do if we had more money, more people? What could we do if we expanded our service area? So these are all the things that they're looking at to help us build a 5 to 10 year plan. And this strategic plan will marry very well with the plans, with the moving forward plan that Chariots is doing, as well as some of the other strategic planning efforts that have been going on. So I'm excited about this. It should be completed in March, but we'll be working with it all along the way. And that's what I have to say tonight. I'm happy to take any questions.
questions? John?
Sure. There it is. Thank you, Roxanne. Interesting information. I think you guys are doing great. I have a question regarding the employer bus pass program. Is there something similar available for cherry lift users? Or could there be?
Currently, there isn't. As far as could there be, I may look to Alan.
I think that's something we have to talk about when we put the bus pass in. That allows us people to use the existing services. With the cherry lift is a different kind of service, so that'd be something we need to really look at.
Marcia, Kate, go ahead.
Yeah, for the audience, could you briefly explain the employer program? Because I think even some people on the board may not understand it.
The employer bus pass program?
Yes.
The program is set up to encourage all the employees of an employer to actually utilize transit. So what we do is we offer a very low monthly rate for all of the employees that are within either, it's an office building, it could be a department, it could be a business such as the book bin. They buy a transit pass for all of their employees every month. And the idea is the rate is lower than a regular monthly rate because they're paying for it for everyone, but not everyone uses it, obviously. But the idea is to get their employees, give them access.
Yeah, and what's that rate? Do you know?
It's different for a business, a private business, than it is a state agency.
Yeah.
And that's because of the tax base.
Exactly.
I think roughly, for businesses, it's about $5 a month, and for nonprofits, it's $4 something.
It's about,
$480 a month for a for-profit business and $560 a month for a not-for-profit or a government agency, because the not-for-profit or government agency do not pay into the tax base that supports the district currently.
Right, and there have to be at least how many in
10.
the 10. So a minimum of 10, which is doable.
correct. That would be $56 a month or $48 a month for a group of 10 employees.
That's a deal.
That's the cost of a pass.
Yeah, I think there's got to be some selling going on that program.
Yeah.
And even if a person doesn't use it all the time, if they have an emergency and they need transportation for a couple of days, they got free transportation.
Absolutely. And from an employer standpoint, the employer then can say to the employee, I've given you a way to get to work. So the excuse of my car broke down, or, I mean, that minimizes the reasons that an employee can't get to work.
Kate?
Yeah, I know you can go on rideshare and put in your information and find your matches. I was just curious if there's how hard it is to get data just to show trends in certain areas where we're getting a lot of ride matches and that kind of stuff, or is that information that would take a long time to extract?
No, I could extract that information. I can even get that information to our Council of Governments, and they can give me a GIS map, since we don't currently have a GIS person. But I could get that data if you're interested.
Yeah, I think that would be very interesting. Obviously, I don't want you to stop everything you're doing, but at some point in time, that would be I would be interested to see. I hope everyone else would be too.
Well, we do look for trends, especially around employer sites. You know, one of the things we learned years ago was that almost half of staff and faculty live within 5 miles of Willamette University. So those people don't need to be driving their cars and parking on campus.
Marcia?
There are some other benefits. I believe the bus pass is a benefit that is not taxable to the employee. So that's, and also if you have people using transit, you have fewer needs for parking spaces at your place of business, and building a parking space costs a lot, as well as maintaining the parking space.
That's absolutely correct. Thank you for pointing that out, Director Kelly.
And John?
Right, on that very topic, I noticed the irony of the first thing I read today in the paper was about the downtown parking issues, And I was surprised to see that nowhere in the article was transit listed as a potential solution to the parking dilemma downtown. And was wondering if you had plans to contact the employers. I guess it was Mr. Vu who bought the Casey's dogs, who was sort of leading that charge. Have you had a chance to speak to him about transit passes?
I haven't spoken to him yet about a transit pass, but I just read the same article that you had read, and I clipped it, so I have an opportunity now to go and discuss it. There are a number of new organizations I'm learning about in the downtown Salem area. Some of the people that are participating in Salem Sunday Streets that are new, sort of new faces on the block, and so I definitely will continue to discuss it with them.
Okay.
As long as they have their 10 employees or more, we'll try to get them signed up.
Right, because the very next thing I read was your report on the ride share, and I thought, there's the answer. And along the lines, as it may be an answer, in the ride share arrangements, are provisions made for disabled people with service animals or mobility devices? Or can those needs be accommodated?
There's not a specific location within the database where someone would check a box, but there are notes, and we have had people that will put a notation, I'm in a mobility device or have a service animal, and when the two people connect and they talk, that's something that they can agree with. I don't know if that's happened, because that's a step beyond what we do.
Okay.
However, anecdotally, I've heard people will say, that works out great.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Roxanne. That
Thank
was
you.
wonderful.
I appreciate your time.
You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Board subcommittee reports, and Council of Governments hasn't met this month. We'll meet next month a couple times. Special Transportation Fund, you have the minutes in your packet, so I don't know if we need to cover that again. Citizens Advisory Committee is there also, so unless, do you have anything you want to say about the Citizens Advisory Committee?
I wasn't at that meeting. John, were you there?
No, but Brad was. I'm not on that committee any longer.
Yeah, but that was, we reported on that last month because it's every other month now.
Exactly.
Anyway, the minutes are there, so we don't need anything additional. Mid-Willamette Valley Area Commission on Transportation, Director Kelly.
We had a meeting the first of the month. The first item was sort of a debriefing. Ken Woods is one of the chair of the Mid-Willamette Area Commission on Transportation, is one of the people who was invited to be on the statewide selection committee. So we always get a report fresh from him. So he did a bit of a report on it. Had a presentation on the seismic plan for bridges in the state, and a presentation on the new All Roads Transportation Safety Program, where they're trying to balance rural and urban uses of safety money, and it's including all of the jurisdictions. And had a few brief updates on the Highway Trust Fund, the next thing happening with the Salem River Crossing, or the next event for the Salem, the third bridge in Salem. For a change, we had the public there talking about their concerns about the third bridge to West Salem. On a note of celebration but sadness, Richard Schmidt, who has been with the Council of Governments, I believe, for 35 years, is retiring, and we are not going to have a September meeting for the Area Commission on Transportation, but they're going to utilize that time for a reception for Richard for his retirement. So that's next Thursday, the 4th? Thursday the 4th, and it would be like at 3:30 or 4, something like that. But if anybody here and anybody in the public knows Richard, I'm sure he'd enjoy seeing your bright and shiny face, wishing him a happy retirement. He's been a great asset to both the Area Commission as well as the district, because they've done planning. Jerry says it's at 4 o'clock. We cooperate amongst governments with planning, and the Council of Governments is very important within that realm. So that's, I think, all that happened at that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Salem Keizer Area Transportation Study Policy Committee.
Okay, we did not meet this month. We had a hiatus, and our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, September 23rd at noon.
And the Oregon Metropolitan Planning Organization.
And again, we didn't meet. Our next meeting is going to be sometime late in September or early October.
But the river crossing is going to meet.
Ah, the river crossing. The Salem River Crossing Oversight Team will be meeting on Thursday, September 18, from 11 to 2 p.m. at the Mid-Willamette Valley COG office. And I think the major subject is going to be how do we pay for it?
Gee. Yeah, good question. Okay, now we go to board management issues.
Thank you. I just have a couple items to report. So as we're all aware, this is state fair season, and our shuttle is underway and running right now. So it's been going great. If you happen to see Carol McCurry's article, the state fair shuttle by Chariots is the fair's best bets. So she talked about, her article was on going to the fair and minimizing costs, and we had 1, 2, 3 paragraphs about what great was the bus and how it worked out for her. So if you haven't gone to the fair yet, I encourage you to take the shuttle. It's free and it's right out front.
You know how ridership is?
We don't have numbers offhand now, but we will provide a wrap-up report next month. In addition to that, I had informed you earlier, but this week, but today there was a funeral service for Wes Lang, husband of Candy Lang, who works in our contract transportation department. Very nice service, and once again, you can be proud of the Chariots employees who all stepped up to help the family through a difficult time. Also, in other news, I let you know earlier, the board members that were here. Sadie Carney's last board meeting is today. She's accepted a position with the state of Oregon as a policy analyst and communications officer in the DLCD, Departments of Land Conservation and Development, and so she'll be leaving us in a few weeks. And so we thank her for her service to Chariots, and it's good to have a friend in the state's office to help us.
Better to have a friend here.
We do wish her well, and so her last day is the 16th. And I'll be on vacation beginning tomorrow through Wednesday, back in the office Thursday. So.
Who's in charge?
Who's in charge? Steve and Paula will be in charge while I'm gone.
Okay, and I didn't have a very busy month either. I went to the SDF committee meeting, the Special Transportation Fund committee meeting, and of course the minutes are in the packet. I went to a Council of Governments going away party for Suzanne Duffner. She also moved on. She was one of the main people over there at COG, at the Council of Governments. She has moved to a planning position in Dallas. I don't know how any of you know Suzanne. I'm sure you've met her. I went to, Alan was there too, meet and greet for Christy Perry, who's a new Salem Keizer School District Superintendent. Very impressive lady. I think she'll do very well. We sat through a webinar with Secretary Fox. That was interesting, updating on the transportation situation in Washington. And that's always interesting. Doesn't change a whole lot, but it's always interesting. We had the 2 Chamber Policy Committee meetings, and this time we're doing the Policy Committee is doing the candidates. And it was for candidates, first time was for District 20, and second time was for District 19. So got some pretty darn good people that are running for the council, for the state legislature. And that's basically all I have. Why don't we start with latecomer, Steve?
Well, first of all, I attended the Neighborhood Association, the first meeting, and sort of briefed them on the concerns I had with the change in schedule in West Salem and how we could move forward with it. and that we would have meetings with the neighborhood association. We would come to them. And then I took trips on the buses around and attended the work session, and currently serving as the 14th hole captain of the Women's LPGA in Portland, and that's why I was late. I'm sorry.
Okay, Brad?
Yeah, so we were out of town. It was a family vacation, so I had to miss the work session, unfortunately. Went back into town. The Neighborhood Association, Greater Gupser, is picking up activity, and we will have some of our candidates coming to our next meeting. So we're excited about having Congressman Schrader coming to one of our meetings too. So it'll be great to have opportunity to talk to our candidates. And school's starting, and that'll be, a good opportunity, I think, to encourage the high schoolers to use the bus. Otherwise it's been mostly a family month.
Kate?
I just want to add a comment about the fare shuttle. I think it was so popular, we did add extra hours, right?
We added on a few of the days an extra trip so that all days had a last shuttle 30 minutes after the fair closes.
Yeah.
Primarily for workers.
Yeah, so I think, exactly, primarily for workers. So I think that was a really popular thing to do, and I like that it was at zero cost. So was helpful for us to be able to supply that. So I did go to the SEDCOR meeting, and we did get to see Congressman Schrader speak. That's always a treat, and he did talk about gas tax. I don't think they necessarily came up with anything new in that meeting, but it was good to hear him say, he will bring messages back. I did attend the work session, and I have a comment on the flyers that you're handing out. Please don't put my phone number on the flyers, so I want you to also stay afterwards and get a staff number, because it's great to advocate and put the word out, but staff will make sure that your comments and whoever else calls in comments are documented fully. And a lot of times I'll get calls, and like I said, I connected you with Linda and everything like that. I don't mind that at all. I'm just concerned if people want me to document comments that I'm not writing them down if they call me, if I'm at coffee shop or work or in a meeting. So I want to make sure people's comments are captured. That's why I want to make sure you have a correct phone number if you're going to ask people to call in or be involved. So thank you for that. Oh, you did? Okay, good. And then the last thing that I want to put the word out there for is the City of Salem is having the Citizens Police Academy. So if you're interested, and free on Wednesday nights from 6 to 9 from September to December, and 3 Saturdays, and find that really moving, make sure you get a hold of the City of Salem staff, and if you don't have that information, I'll be glad to give it to you.
And the cutoff is this weekend, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Marcia.
Well, it was a slowish month for transit, not necessarily a slowish month for me, but I won't say anything about those things. Did attend the work session, did have the area commission on transportation, and did have an opportunity to listen to a panel on transportation at the mayor's conference in Pendleton the second week of the month. I was not a mayor, I was part of the audience.
Bob?
Well, I had a very slow month too. I attended the work session, and then I attended 3 neighborhood associations, and Sadie Carney made 2 very fine presentations. We're going to miss her work when she leaves us. But my job with attending those was to notify them of the fare increase, of the South Salem Transit Center progress, and also of the Moving Forward program. So basically, Sadie informed the 2 that she attended of the Moving Forward program. I just sort of backed her up.
Okay, Don, sure. John.
That's all right. I managed to miss the work session. I had thrown my back out, and still having small suffering from that, but mostly doing all right. Sorry to have missed it. The two things that I attended on a transit basis were the neighborhood association meeting, where I'm going to have to ride some routes that I don't ride often in my sub-district. There's construction at the end of Market and Sweegle, and some detours for the routes there. And there's the neighborhood association is complaining that the stops are that some stops have been closed during the construction, and it's creating some dislocation. So I'll go check that out.
I think it ends at the end of the month.
Right, it's getting close to being done anyway, but I'll go take a look, because some of their comments were a little confusing to me, because I'm just not familiar enough with those routes. So I'll rectify that. Also went to the Special Transportation Fund Advisory Committee meeting, and the thing that I thought was significant there was that Route 25 in Carts got changed in May, and the riding public, to a fair extent, never got the word. Not entirely never, but the ridership on that route dropped to 1/4 of what it had been. And the folks who were making the comment said it was largely because people showed up at their stops, but the buses didn't, because it had been changed from a scheduled service to a call-in basis, and folks hadn't been aware of that. So we'll see if in the future we can rectify that. On the whole, I think the whole suburban system is due for a look at. There's public information about the services and services that are available, because is kind of scarce right now. I think that the change that was made to Route 25 was an improvement, but people missed out because the notification process was insufficient for their needs. So that's that.
Okay, anyone have anything else? Okay, we close.
Cover 12.